Hello, I'm Matt Sortino. In 2001, I was a player on the Phoenixville High School varsity baseball team. That year, we accomplished something incredible. We won the PIAA State Championship, the first in Phoenixville's history. Many of you probably know the results, but you don't know the story behind the victory. So for the 20th anniversary of our accomplishment, I caught up with some of the players and our coach to share that story with you. This is Steeltown Sports, putting Phoenixville on the map.
Yeah, I think, at least it was when we were kids growing up and through high school. I think baseball was the dominant sport in Phoenixville.
To see like Joe, or he's like related to everybody in town, and like his father and brother played there, and like to see other people's family members and they have cousins, and it was always surrounded by either being at Pico or KYL in the summers, and it was just what you did in the summer, and it's how I have all my friends, which I'm very appreciative of. So yeah, I've always been aware of how Phoenixville baseball is very important to a lot of people, and I think that's really cool.
It had a rich tradition of major league players. I remember talking to my dad about players that he played with or that were prior to him, like Andre Thornton, and then obviously Mike Piazza, and guys that played, in the minor leagues and whatnot. There was always just a rich tradition. Baseball was big to my family. My brother going to high school 4 years prior and playing through. My dad played at Phoenixville High School, so that was always like a unique bond to share. And it's my best memories. Obviously brings back great childhood emotions. Phoenixville itself as a community has transformed significantly since that time. But prior to 2001, there wasn't a ton to do in Phoenix, so it was sports, and that's what pretty much the whole town was based around.
I played basically with everyone because there's two little leagues, and I played in both from 8 years old and all the way through Babe Ruth and then into high school. So everyone on the team was incredibly close for 10 plus years. And I think that helped. We were a talented team, but I think there was another level of camaraderie with everyone being so close, friendly with each other.
A senior heavy team, if I remember from our lineup, besides the pitching rotation, it essentially, you DH'd, and Joe started, and then everybody else I think was a senior. Yep. So yeah, it was really heavy, and like I said, everyone was friends on that team from what I remember, and I think that helped with our success significantly.
I think probably the team had the most talent that I had in my 17 years at Phoenixville. You had guys sitting on the bench that could play most of the years that I played, so we knew we had a good team going into the season. Basically knew the summer before a lot of you guys either played Kimmerton or at Phoenix, or for me at Legion, so we knew everybody was playing, but you could see talent starting to develop. You had Joey Yeager, who was a 4-year starter at shortstop. You had Ian Hawes. You had Mike Pancott. You had guys that even were role players that were really good players. So we knew going into it, if we had the pitching, that we'd have a pretty good team going into that. But the talent that we had, both on the field and on the bench, was real good.
Did you ever think before the season that high, though, that we would be good enough to make that kind of?
No. Being in my third year, I had been with Doc Kennedy, and a lot of times I knew it would be hard. I probably thought, I always said, and I think people took it the wrong way, I always thought our league was probably one of the best leagues in the state, and playing Springford made it deep into the states that year also. And you play Boyertown twice, you play all those big schools twice. You're going to know by the end of the season where you stand. And then when you're going into playoffs, you knew, we had a good second half, I think, of the regular season, and you knew that you had something there. But it's hard to predict. I don't always look ahead. You always try as a coach to say, okay, our goal is be in the States and all that, but you never know. I had never taken a team to the States, obviously, before, so I didn't know that, so I wasn't really looking that far ahead. But as we started to roll through districts, he said, you know what, we could do this.
We didn't win the Pac-10. I think we got beat by PV
Twice, I think.
twice, oddly.
Correct.
One time I think we got 10 run.
Correct.
We had ejections, we had suspensions. I mean, it was a weird season. Do you remember like anything that sticks out about that?
One game I remember I pitched against Pottstown at home, and I think gave up 4 or 5 home runs. It was like a crazy win, but I remember my dad like coming to me after the game being like, what the heck happened to you out there? Like, that's embarrassing, like, which it was. So I remember that specifically. I remember, we probably underachieved during the regular season. We let some of those opponents that weren't the top caliber teams in the Pac-10 hang around with us and beat us like a Perkiomen Valley.
I think we lost to Perk Valley twice, didn't we?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they were just
where we had guys getting ejected. I mean, I think there was some suspension. It was just like one of those things where it wasn't a fairy tale.
No.
Until the end.
Until the end, and even like when we started to do it, there was kids showing up late to practice, and we had to leave them out of games for a while and all that. And it was, as I said, there was a bunch of characters on that team, and I probably don't even know half the stories that you guys probably know because you guys were on the other side of it and all that.
I remember being like ineligible for like 2 games, and that wasn't cool. I wish I could go back and change that. But I don't know, maybe that, I remember being ineligible where I couldn't pitch at, I think it was O&J, and didn't like Zumo pitch really well, and Hancock hit a home run and we beat them. Like, there's certain moments that I wasn't even in that game, and it was one of the cooler games of the year because it was like nobody thought we'd win, and Drew pitched great, Mike hit a homer, and at O&J, it was great.
I remember when I think Springford was also in the postseason, but they were obviously in a different level because of the size of the school. And I remember going to scrimmage them prior to starting postseason play and getting just demolished up at their new field at Springford High School and being like, wow, we do not look good as a team. And then I think we went back there to play Dallas, PA in one of our, either the opening round or the second round, and Ian pitching that game and us being behind, I think, for a decent portion of that game. It was close, like a low scoring game, but then us coming back and then from that game forward, just kind of rolling.
Districts was, because we played so well in districts, I feel like that gave us a little bit of confidence going into states. The games kind of all blend together at this point, but I do remember having to pitch the last inning or something from the first round. I remember the walk-off hit. I remember just being at Boyertown. And that game, for whatever reason, I think that was the semifinal game. We all were like, we're going to the championship. Like, this was like just another, at that point we were rolling so well. I just remember it being like, we just had this air of confidence, and it just seemed pretty natural to keep winning.
The only other thing I sort of remember about the regular season was when Ian went down with the arm injury at Great Valley in the first inning.
Surgery was never an option. Maybe a mistake back then, I still have arm problems now, but I wanted to just keep playing, so whether that was first base, third base, maybe DH, I don't know.
Don't hold me to this, but I know he pitched the final inning against Dallas. And then he went to the doctor the next day, and the doctor said, I don't want you, and I told him the only time you'll pitch is if we need one out to win the championship.
It sucked. I wish I could have pitched more, but.
My definitely thing that, because the night before the state championship, you guys had your graduation, and I just knew in the back of my head, I hope they realize this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I know you're graduating tonight, and you're a 17, 18-year-old kid.
They did graduate like a day or two prior, and I remember going to like graduation, like 1 or 2 graduation parties. Like it might have been Mike McIntyre's graduation party the night prior or something, just being very, obviously subdued because we had this state championship game.
And I even remember, I think it was you that stood up and said, Coach, we know what's at stake here. We're not going to ruin it. I mean, I don't even think you were graduating, but you knew everything that was going on. But I knew a couple people said, no, we're okay. But it's still in the back of my head, and I don't even know what happened that night, but I know everybody was sort of ready the next morning.
I remember, obviously, we were coming back to school as juniors, but some of our best friends were graduating and going to college, and it was just going to be different. Like our lives post-graduation, post-baseball game was going to be different because people were headed in different directions just because of the difference in age and whatnot.
So before we started recording, we talked about like the morning of. So
Sure.
we met at the high school the morning of.
Morning of.
One of our best players, we weren't sure if he was going to be able to play.